Blended Podcasts. Brought to you by Blended Audio.
Hello and welcome to Centre Stage, the South African Film and Theatre Podcast. I'm your host, Peter Bates.
And I am Alistair King and Daniels, and today we are joined with the amazing
Tara Macpherson.
It was a beautiful intro.
Thank you. Gotta give us some flair.
So Tara,
Yes.
we've had you on like a long time before. So for those of people who have not heard about who you are, give us a little bit of a rundown. Who is Tara?
Okay. So Tara is an actress. Sorry, I'll drop the accent. So I'm an actress, Cape Town, born and bred. I mostly do theatre and dubbing work. And currently I'm doing 2 productions simultaneously. I am doing Noddy with Stagecraft Studios at the Artscape Foyer in the mornings, and then in the evenings I am doing Othello, A Woman's Story at the Artscape Arena.
And we'll get back to that.
Yeah.
Because I have questions.
Yes.
Noddy,
Yes.
is it every day?
Every single day. Actually, today we have off, and then Monday the 16th we have off, but then every other day.
Every day.
Until
That
the 21st.
All the way till the 21st?
Yeah.
So that's a Saturday.
Yeah.
So then, okay, you have a few days.
Yeah.
But that's hectic, because then because I've been in a child's play.
Yeah.
Children's play.
Children's theatre.
They can be quite energetic.
One could say they're not child's play.
They're not child's play. Oh, no. Yeah, no, it's full high energy. You come off sweating and your cheeks are hurting from smiling. But that's when you know you've done a good job, you know.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's for children's theatre. If you come off and you're not dead, you didn't give it your all.
Yes, I remember when I did a children's play in Grahamstown, and it just, because we also did it every day.
Yes.
And it's like a workout. It's just
a
like
full-on workout.
But it's so much fun. I had some more fun doing that show than the other show I was in, because in a way you do things that you wouldn't normally do in like a straight play.
Yes. You kind of have to leave your ego and your sense of embarrassment at the door, because especially with Stagecraft Studios, with Cheryl Bomovich, what she does is she combines actors with kids that she teaches. So it's not just a full adult cast. Yeah. So there's 6 adults and 9 kids. So you're obviously having to work extra hard so that the kids don't feel embarrassed. So, I mean, at one point during the show, the kids get the kids from the audience to do Ring a Rosie, and I have to be there to just help out in case.
In case it goes wrong.
Yeah. It actually did. Yesterday, what happened is the kids didn't want to close the circle, so I had to be like, oh, let me come and help.
So when you say kids in the cast, is it like kinders? Or
so
like
the youngest
teenage
is
vibes?
So the youngest is 6, and then the oldest is 10.
Okay, so
so like
primary
that
school.
age group. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're very cute. They do, and obviously, like, I'm really glad they have some time off, because, I mean, they get tired. It's hard. It's a hard work show.
I was just going to say, like, you're performing now practically every day.
Yeah.
What was the rehearsal process like?
Rehearsal was every Saturday and Sunday in the morning from 9
that's
until
nice.
1, yeah. So, I mean, it was pretty chilled. It's what's quite nice with Cheryl's shows, because she's been doing it for 30 plus years, and she kind of goes through like a catalogue. There's like a video, so you watch the video of it, so you kind of have a reference, because there's a certain way you've got to do things, like certain call and response. So, that kind of helps, especially for the kids, because like, this is what you're supposed to do, because this is what the video said. Yeah.
I thought Peter was going to say something. Okay, so you're doing Noddy,
Yes.
like in the morning.
Yes.
And then you do Othello, A Woman's Story in the afternoon, evening.
Talk about a contrast. How does that work? So how do you get from that one headspace to that other headspace?
Oh my goodness. What helps is there's a little bit of a gap
Yeah, okay.
to just kind of break away. I think I'm more involved in Noddy in that I'm on stage more, or I'm having to help out with the music more. And it's just like, there's like a set thing, so you don't necessarily have to think too hard about your motivation, if that makes any sense. It's more about make sure the kids are having fun. Make sure the kids are having fun.
As long as there's laughter?
Yes. Are we good? Or like getting the kids, like in Noddy, my character, Mrs. Noah, she wants to get the kids to do the funky monkey. So just getting the kids to do the funky monkey with us. Sorry, that was my Noah voice. But with Othello, I think it also helps that I have done the show before. We did it last year. Wow.
Yes.
Did it last year. And so I know the character enough to just kind of slip into it. And just reminding myself whole different 180 character. Mrs. Noah from Noddy, she's super bubbly and she's got all her animals to feed. And then Lodovico, who I play in Othello, got tattoos, works for the mafia. In terms of my backstory, what I've given her, it's just like as soon as I remember the justifications, then I'm like, yeah, I got this. And also it helps I just got it full on different makeup outset and different hairstyles. That kind of just helps out.
So you sort of like, I'm hearing you sort of like what sort of acting technique?
Sorry, yes, obviously. Costume helps, just as like a quick thing, but it's just kind of going through your script and just reminding yourself about your characterization. Essentially, if your characterization is really strong and really complete, it's just getting into that mind space, having a moment to just go, who am I, what am I doing? Running through the play, essentially, in your brain, just doing like a little Mickey Mouse run of like, this is where I go, this is what I do, these are my things, this is my motivations. And then that's basically it, isn't it? You just got to show up and do the work.
You just got to do it. Get a paycheck.
That's essentially what it is.
Yeah, say the lines and don't fall over the set, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't fall off the stage.
Yeah, don't get injured. Yeah.
You were doing, I went to see the last run of
Yes.
A Woman's Story, and you did it in the Masambe Theatre, which is an amazing theatre.
Yes.
We acted
were there,
yeah.
Yes.
We're halfway in. And it was a lovely little theatre.
Yes.
But now you're in the
Arena.
The Arena
That's
Theatre,
That's
yeah.
cool. So that's a step up.
It's
in terms of size.
Yes, no,
Yeah.
it's a much bigger theatre.
So I was going to ask, it is a big difference in terms of size. Does that affect, like, because you have some new cast members, but
Yes.
a lot of the cast members are the same.
Yes.
So you all sort of come in there and you go, okay, let's go. We know like the blocking, we know everything.
Yes.
Was there a big shift in terms of that?
Definitely. So we have more than one entrance now, because for a while we only had one place to enter and exit from. So it's utilizing that space, because we also don't want to just stick to that small way of staging, because that underutilizes the space.
Yeah.
Also, the set has been made bigger, so now we have these big poles that are kind of like curved to represent the bars. So like bigger, taller bars. And also the main stage is flat, but then there's, I don't know if you remember where the couch was.
Yeah.
Now there's a little raised area there.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think the biggest challenge for me, at least, is there's a certain fight scene that I'm in.
Yes.
The big fight scene where and I get injured, is there's a longer distance for me to travel to get a piece of tissue to cover my wound. And that's a bit tricky. That's, it's like there's
Like
slightly
little things
longer
like that, yeah.
to travel than initially.
time.
Yeah.
When you, I don't know if it was you in particular, but like there was quite a few scenes in that when I watched, and like it was like the fight scenes, but it looked like they were really like clapping each other.
Yeah. I got that not yesterday, the day before. Regina, our director, her girlfriend came up to me afterwards and she's like, "Are you okay? Like, it looked like you really got hurt." So I was like, "No, it's fine. It's just acting." Yeah, but also I think because we've done the show so often, particularly with my fight scene with Cassio Leku, the girl who plays her, we've gotten so used to each other and we've got that trust, so we can go further and harder at each other, so like it gets more hectic every time. Actually once, because she she accidentally spilled a drink, so I actually slipped while we're busy fighting, so it had an extra element of like authenticity. It was great though.
I quite like when we're doing, I don't know where I was doing a fight scene, but like, there was a scene in one of my other plays where I had to get slapped. And like the other... It's a weird thing when you're on stage and you have to do a fight scene. Like you would prefer actually getting hit.
Yes.
To get the real reaction as opposed to try and faking it.
Yeah, with the clap.
So then, because then I was like, "Just hit me," and she was like, "What? No, I can't hit you." And you're like, "Just do it." And then on the night, she really did go for it.
Oh, no.
And I did not expect like such a huge.
Oh no!
And then my like you could see the imprint of it on my face. For the rest, like the front 2 rows were like. And I just had to pretend
so
like it was a little.
Yeah.
It was really authentic.
A little too authentic.
But it was.
Don't cry.
But I don't know why this thought came into my mind, but it was interesting to know that it's not just me. Like you kind of want something happening to actually react to, because the audience can see.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a fine line between something that's stylized, that you can sell it because it's stylized, and then something that's realistic. And like to kind of get up to that realism line, it's
But I think it also, like I said, we have that advantage that we've done the show before. So there is a trust and there's a certain way we've done the show and done that fight scene specifically so that we can work around those perimeters, and we're so comfortable in that mode that we can play essentially and get rougher with each other.
Yes.
Within staying within those parameters, which is quite nice. I like it.
Like it.
I do. I enjoy my fight scenes. It's a lot of fun. It's great.
Okay, so Othello, A Woman's Story is Shakespeare.
Yes.
So we're getting now onto the Shakespeare topic.
Yes.
But all the roles are women. So that's an interesting idea. How does that change the story?
You know what, actually? It doesn't change it as much as you think it does. Because, I mean, this is the great thing about Shakespeare and why I personally find him still as relevant today as he was back then. Because if we look at the actual text, it is about an immigrant who's a person of colour and is a recent convert, because he's referred to as the Moor, and Moors were, in that majority, they were Muslim. And I mean, in his death scene, he talks about killing the Muslim, which is him, essentially. So it's about this immigrant, person of colour in a predominantly white area at the time, and how he's fought to make a name for himself, try to be this really good person, and how that's all undermined by this essentially jealous asshole. Sorry, excuse my language. Who decides to just completely ruin his life and derail him. And that's still as relevant today as it was then, which is quite sad. It's sad, but it's relevant.
Like 400 years.
Years later, we're still doing the same things.
Yeah. So I mean, if you just look at it from that point of view, it doesn't matter that Othello is now a woman. I think the advantage of setting it in the prison is that everything's so contained, so it aids the idea of tensions rising, and that's why it's easier to get under people's skin, and that's why Iago has slight advantage in putting people against each other, because everyone's slightly paranoid. That's a big advantage I've found.
Do you think it's more immediately relevant to the audience as well? Is that...
I think so. We've had comments where it's like, because it's prison, so everyone feels like everything's essentially on edge, because there is that stereotype, or regardless of how true or not it is. So yeah, I think the audience kind of gets that because it's a prison, so everyone's immediately on edge, and then it starts off. We start off quite happy, you know, Othello's happy, and then you just immediately know with Iago's going to cause some troubles. Two different words, Tara. And then it just spirals from there. And I mean, we live in a world of like Orange is the New Black and Wentworth and all that. So that kind of people knowing that all the politics that go into those stories, it aids
the add-on.
Yeah.
So you took Othello and you changed it. You made all the roles female.
Yes.
Which doesn't, like when I watched it, it doesn't. Like that was the last thing that was on my mind in terms of story-wise.
Yes.
But the biggest thing was you changed the setting and it's now in the prison and what. So you took Shakespeare and you changed it to make it relevant. Is there anything to be said about doing Shakespeare as Shakespeare intended?
Can I jump in for a second?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was having a private bet with myself who would say the word relevant first. So I'm glad we got there. Does Shakespeare require those changes to be relevant?
I think, you know what, it's a very fascinating comment. Because I've been having that conversation with a few people, because the older I get and the more I kind of look back on Shakespeare's stuff, the more relevant it becomes, actually, in terms of all his subject matters. Because, I mean, if you have another look at, for instance, Romeo and Juliet, which has been dismissed as like, it's a stupid love story. And then actually you do a bit of research and go, actually, he based it on this Italian drama where the whole point of that story was that these two are stupid idiots who didn't listen to their parents, and the reason they died is because they didn't listen to their parents. And then Shakespeare took it, and his, like in that opening monologue, he goes, the reason why these two are going to die is because there's an ancient feud that is so ancient that no one remembers why it's a thing. And the systematic hatred is what's going to lead to the death of these two kids, and that's the tragedy in it. Which again, still very relevant today. Or like things like, I love this Shakespeare play, and it's like very underrated. It's called Coriolanus. There's the movie with Ray Fiennes and Gerald Butler, who's my man. I love him. And it's basically about shell shock and the inability to come back from war because he's just been out in the battlefield for so long he can't come back to normal life. I think the biggest thing when it comes to adapting Shakespeare, for lack of a better term, or putting it on, it's knowing the script and how to present it. I think maybe not necessarily changing dialogue, because we didn't change that much dialogue. I think the only things we changed...
Faithful.
Yeah, I think the only thing we did is we changed names. So instead of saying general, we've now said top dog, because like we wanted to give it like the prison edge, for lack of a better term. So I mean, those changes make sense, but the text kind of gives you all the work. That was the whole point of Shakespeare, is that all of the dialogue, all the scene stuff was in the text so that the audience got the picture. So if you have a really strong director, this is my opinion, if you have a really strong director, a really strong cast who really understand it and know how to work around those parameters, it is still relevant and it is still doable. It's how you approach it. If you just go, I mean, Romeo and Juliet is the easiest target because it's been done so many times. If you just go, it's about two families and they're feuding, and then these two people and they fall in love and then they die. That's kind of doing Shakespeare a humongous disservice,
But it's still accessible at that level.
Yes,
do you see?
it is true.
It's actually really flexible because it's accessible at that level, and it's also accessible if you can go deeper.
No, that's very fair point.
Wherever you access it, there's still something that is. You know, people say Shakespeare's relevant because he speaks about human nature, and human nature is fundamentally unchanging.
Yes.
You know, which I think is a bit of a cop-out, because it's kind of like saying, you know...
Every playwright ever.
Exactly. But
true.
Yeah, you're right. You can access it on
multiple levels.
On multiple levels, yeah.
Well, I mean, and that was the whole point of Shakespeare. I think we've, unfortunately, as a society, just made him, he was this untouchable dude. He was so
we put him
brilliant.
on a pedestal, yeah.
But, like... at the end of the day, back in the day, he was writing for the common man, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Globe Theatre, right? There's like a pit.
Exactly.
Where the audience stands, elbows on the stage, cheering, jeering.
And they want to be
Yes.
there.
And-
I've been there. It's such
That's
a
so
vibe.
cool.
It's so good.
That's really cool.
You get the atmosphere completely. And like we got rained on. What did I watch? Much Ado About Nothing. And like you just get so sucked in because the actors are so good. When you have really good actors who really get Shakespeare, you forget everything else. It doesn't matter that they're speaking in a language that's heightened because they just know what they're doing. And I think it is when actors know what they're doing, regardless. I mean, it's same with like children's theatre. When the actor is just so confident and knows what they're doing on stage, you just feel so safe with them, and they can just do whatever they want, essentially.
You can do what they want with you.
Yeah.
So we sort of came to the same sort of conclusion, I think, with Shakespeare. It's about, because the one thing that I always come back to is when you read a Shakespeare play, like in school, you notice that there's not a lot of what's the word? Stage
Yes,
directions.
absolutely.
And I think that sort of lends itself. It's also another component as to why it is so adaptable
Yes.
and thus relevant, because it doesn't
Absolutely.
say it needs to be in this location, but like in this castle and blah blah blah.
Yes,
it just
exactly.
says like
Yeah.
in Fair Verona.
But because the set was non-existent as we know set today.
Yeah.
It was non-existent.
Just basically a platform on which the actors stand and two doors.
Literally.
Two doors which are the entrance to
Yeah.
a cave in one scene and the main
Yeah.
door of a palace in another.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally, and the thing is, that's all you needed. And I think the biggest thing of why there is such a stigma, for lack of a better term, for Shakespeare is how it's introduced to kids in schools.
Oh gosh, you see, I'm culpable in that, unfortunately, because I'm an English
Yeah.
teacher.
Oh, sorry.
No, but I 100% agree with you, because
Yeah.
the thing is, I'm bringing the stuff to these kids, and
Yeah.
look, I mean, it's a mass market, right? So it's
Yes.
like 30 people in a room, and I've got to try to get them to
Obviously.
understand it. They're
Obviously.
not going to get the language all the
No.
time. I try my hardest.
No, I can imagine.
I mean, I'm
No,
pretty good at reciting Shakespeare.
Yeah.
But we access it on that very low level. Here's
Yes.
two kids, they love each other, they die because they're silly
Yes.
kids. We access it, but unfortunately, a lot of it is just beating it into them.
I know,
And
absolutely.
Anyone is going to hate you when you force them to do something that they don't want to do.
Completely. Yeah.
And unfortunately, that is how people are introduced to Shakespeare.
Yeah, and it's
you know?
also, and I think that's also the issues that people like just read it. That's their first
They don't
introduction.
see it on stage, exactly.
If you, what was quite clever is that's my introduction to Shakespeare, because my mom loves Shakespeare. Is what she would tell me to do is you get a movie of it, and then you read it as you watch it. So
Yes.
you're
Yes,
you're
yes.
having access to it at the same time, which I think is such a help to just read the text and you're watching it, so you get a fuller picture. And I mean, I remember when we did it it was Romeo and Juliet in high school, and we were going to watch the Olivia Hussey and Leonard Whiting one. Oh, I love that
the
version.
1968 film, Zeffirelli film, yeah.
Yes. Oh, I love that one.
You know, it's fascinating because I show my kids the Zeffirelli film,
Yes.
and I show them also. There was one that was done recently, I think 2013.
Oh yes, I haven't seen that one.
I show them both, and they universally agree that the 68 version is their favorite.
Really?
They beg me to
They
watch
s-
that.
But
It's
just
just so good.
but that's the thing is they just know what they're doing.
Exactly. Yeah. It's
yeah.
actually competent people who know exactly what they're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They know what the text is. They know exactly what they're doing with it. But the thing that kind of annoyed me when I did Romeo and Juliet and we were watching that film is I wanted to read the text and watch it.
Yes,
and
yes.
my teacher was like, no, don't look at the text. You must just watch it. It's like, no, this is a wonderful opportunity for me to see how
it works.
text.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because another thing is, and I think this is something that needs to be said to kids, I don't know in what context, but to say that, hey, back in the day, things like copyright did not exist. Things like getting a full script to actors
Wasn't a
did
thing.
not
You
a
got
thing.
a page with your lines
With
on
just
it.
your lines. So it was a complete combined effort, and like people workshopping, like essentially what Othello was, a woman's story. It was mostly a workshop, and people bouncing ideas off each other. Which I think is why it is why it's come together the way it has, because we discuss the different themes. And I think knowing that context makes it more alive. But again, like, where do you find the time to do that?
Yeah, where do you get
and
into that?
Yeah, and I mean, just watching the films you can only do so much. Because you've got so much syllabus to cover.
Well, you see, this is the major problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You see, what we try and do is we try to take the kids to Maynardville because they have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Maynardville.
And when I was at school, our school went literally the whole school went. We booked the theatre out.
Yes.
And we're trying to get back up to that because you can't. You have to. Theatre, you have to watch it on the stage.
You have to. It's the only way to get it.
Exactly. Reading it is not sufficient.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then once you've read it, or once you've seen it, then you read it and go, oh, hang on.
Yes, you can put two and two together. Yeah, exactly.
And I think there's also someone was like, oh, don't go look up the story beforehand. I disagree. I think there's wonderful websites that tell you exactly what different words mean.
Yeah, go spoil it for yourself. You should know what's happening.
Go spoil it, because then you understand it better and you can go knowing what the story is so that you're not lost and you're not like focusing on the words. Because I think that's also what scares people.
Yeah, they get lost.
They hear Shakespeare and their eyes immediately
it's
go
like foreign
cross-eyed.
Language.
Yes.
I can't do it. Yeah.
Whereas if you know what the story is, you can just go, oh, this is what the story is. Oh, that's what they're talking about. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Because it's not... If English is your first language, I think if it's not your first language, slightly different story. But if it's your first language, there's not that many words that are too hard to
wild,
understand.
yeah.
If you know what the story is, it's easier to follow along. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think I find what it needs. I think there's this thing, linguistic narrowing. So a word becomes more specific over time, and I think we're kind of downstream of Shakespeare. So our words have narrowed to a point that kind of is only, let's say, the word. I don't even have an example, but we have one meaning for that word, whereas kind of back in Shakespeare's time, that word had various meanings.
Absolutely.
We still have those meanings, but they're more figurative.
Yes.
So I think when you're reading Shakespeare as a modern English speaker, you have to have a more of a figurative mind to understand kind of that, because you kind of have to work back through those years.
Yes.
But
also he had to spell them out for the common crowd.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you've got nothing else to distract you on stage. You literally just have the actor, and the actor just has to keep you captivated with the words, essentially. So he had to make it as descriptive as possible, because how else are you going to keep them entertained? Aside from like the fighting, obviously.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. There's something for everyone. There's dirty jokes for the peasants in
Absolutely,
the and then there's like themes of princes and kings for the royal family sitting up at the top box.
Absolutely.
And it's wonderful just to think how this extremely stratified English society, and everyone is in the same round.
Exactly, and how it brought people together in a way. I can't remember where I saw it online, but someone made a wonderful point saying that, someone said something, Shakespeare's so universal, but like actually, if you look at his plays, he probably crammed in so many pop culture reference of his day. Because how else do you explain Exit Pursued by a Bear?
Yeah, exactly.
Like it had to. That was such a specific
That was a reference to something.
line.
You had to be there to understand.
Yeah, there was no way. There has to be some story behind there. And I think that just makes him, because we know so little about him actually, it just makes it more accessible in a way, more universal, which I love.
So, over the course of this podcast,
we've
talked about a good actor will do this, and a good actor makes you understand Shakespeare, and blah, blah, blah. So, in this closing question, I would like to know from you.
Oh dear.
What makes a good actor?
Ooh, sorry. In my opinion, I think a good actor is someone who can effectively communicate the thoughts and feelings of whatever character they've been given. I think at the end of the day, what an actor is a storyteller. And if at the end of the play, story, whatever you're telling, musical, children's theatre, if at the end of the play the audience is touched by either a character or just by the story itself, you've done your job right. If they've felt something, whether it's positive or negative, I mean, well, hopefully negative is in like they're feeling feelings, not like they hated the play. But if they've had an emotional reaction to the play, then you've done your job right. and that you've just communicated the story, because there's a reason the play was written. The original, I don't know if this is well known, but Othello is actually another adaptation from another, I think it's an Italian play, I can't remember. But in that play, essentially, it was a story about don't mix and match, don't intermarry. At the end, because correct me if I'm wrong, I could be wrong about it, but Iago has a very reduced role in the original. And in Desdemona's final speech, she kind of has a speech where she says along the lines of, I fear I may prove an example for future situations like this, which problematic. Whereas Shakespeare took that, and I'm not saying that he was a perfect guy, he had his problematic stuff too, but he made a point of saying it's not this dude's fault, he's a victim of circumstance, essentially, and he was completely manipulated by this horrible guy. Iago's a great character, actors love to play him, but as a person, hate his guts, because he completely ruins this wonderful guy. Not Iago. Othello is this really great guy. He really wants to try his best. He works so hard. And part of the reason why he is so easily manipulated is because he just wants to trust, and he wants to belong, and he wants to help people. And essentially that's the real tragedy, if anything, that he's just so betrayed by this person he put his trust in. And that is, and at the end of the play, that is what people get. They're like, this poor guy, this horrible story, and I think that's, if we've done that, then we've done it right. If the people are really heartbroken at the end, then we did the job right. We got the story. We did Shakespeare
Then
proud.
great.
Yeah.
They're heartbroken. It's perfect.
Yes.
I would agree.
Yeah. It's the same with Noddy. If the kids are really happy and they're really excited, then we did our job right. And that's the most important thing, that we've given the audience something to
take home.
Take home, yeah. Whether it's a smile, a cry, something.
Well, on that cheery note, something.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for
thank you,
having
Tara.
me, guys.
It's been wonderful to have you here.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, audience, for tuning in to this latest edition of Centre Stage, the South African Film and Theatre podcast. We will see you next week.
Bye. King Media Productions Centre Stage is a South African film and theatre podcast hosted by Alistair King and Daniels and Peter Bates, and produced with the generous assistance of Blended Podcasts, brought to you by Blended Audio.